o'clock. If we could go ahead and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Have all the board members had a chance to look at the agenda?
Yes, I will move that we approve the agenda for tonight's meeting.
I'll second it.
And we got a couple of seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have an agenda. Item number 3, Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Board President Wiehlander, other board directors, our student representative, this evening, community members, families, parents, and guardians, as well as staff and students. I'll start off the robotics team at Shelton High School as a part of a cooperative team that's with 2 other teams outside of the district placed first this past weekend. So congratulations to the robotics team. It's a first time ever of placing first and getting a blue ribbon. And so there's some more competitions to come, but hopefully and likely to be part of the state competition. I would also like to take this time to welcome Marianne Marshall. She'll be now serving as the interim principal at OBJH, Oakland Bay Junior High, here for the district for the remainder of the school year. Marianne, longtime employee for the district and also a graduate from Shelton High School and also attended OBJH. So she's got a lot of relations and is very vested in hoping to finish the school year strongly with all of the staff, students, and families. I'd like to just comment briefly on the budget, just to try to make folks aware that some of the increased cost, including inflation, and some of the decreased funding specifically from the federal government around COVID relief, helping the learning loss for students is decreasing. Those inflationary pressures, the increased cost of things is driving us to be tightening our belts. We, unlike other schools that might perhaps be closing schools or a forced reduction of staff, we will not be doing that. We're just gonna have tighter budgets, but we're gonna continue to fund our highest priorities that we have here that are underneath our strategic plan, so I feel good with that. And so my anticipation is that families and specifically the students don't feel any loss in services this upcoming school year, but just do want to make folks know that despite the surrounding news and issues on it, that we are continuing to move forward. We just have to be more cognizant of every dollar and making sure that we can stretch it the best we can. Very much like I'm sure many folks' households. The last one is I was last week at Olympic Middle School with a student with disabilities. A really nice opportunity to meet with that student in the principal's office. He was winning an award, or reward I should say, about a book because the student is now pretty fluent in his reading. He is also a multilingual learner with a kid with disabilities. There's a lot going on. One of the brightest smiles ear to ear to watch that student read to me. He was so proud and to get that reward of the book, and just really touches my heart. And so I told him, I am going to come find you at the end of the school year and have you read to me again and see where you're at, because he is definitely an up-and-comer at Olympic Middle School as a reader, and you can just see that he is going to be one of our many success stories. So all in there. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to community comment. As a part of the regular school board meeting, the board invites community members to make public comment in person and or by phone as conditions allow. If speaking in person, please follow the public comments procedure by signing in, stating your name and address at the podium when called by the chair. If making comments by phone, please dial 1-253-215-8782. Enter the meeting ID 854-3386-9913. Each person is allowed 3 minutes to speak in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act. The board will not be allowed to discuss items that are not on the agenda. The board will direct the superintendent to follow up on any items that arise during public comment as appropriate. The board cautions all speakers that it is possible that your statements could violate the rights of others under various laws, including protecting privacy and prohibiting defamation. If you are unsure of the legal effects of your remarks, you should seek independent legal advice. In any case, we ask that you help us model for our students what a respectful and inclusive community looks and sounds like. And if we could get Charlie Warren is up first.
Hello. My name is Charlie Warren, address 109 Southeast Aldermanor Lane. On January 31st, my student was injured during first period weightlifting class. He was instructed to do a 2-on-1 tackle drill without pads outside of the football season by football coaches. My student was told by mentors he's supposed to trust with his safety to physically tackle other students. Due to the guidance of the staff acting as physical education teachers for the Shelton School District, my student, along with several others, obtained a concussion. What is worse is he was not checked on by the adults responsible for maintaining his safety. My student was actually only brought to the office after being found wandering between buildings by a Shelton school staff member and another student. He was disoriented with a large visual injury to his face. His right eye was almost completely swollen shut, and his eyebrow was protruding drastically from his face. I was contacted by the nurse, who stated he needs to go to the ER and probably get x-rays, and to please call when I got there because they didn't feel safe for him to walk out on his own. According to my student, he was not the first to be injured during these drills. Other students were slammed into walls or the ground, again without any pads, resulting in concussions as well. One student dislocated his finger. These drills were not stopped after several injuries had occurred, but rather they were pressured to continue, and the students who were injured were told to get up and move out of the way so they could continue the drills. My student stated that coaches made comments about how they weren't surprised that people were injured, and it happened anytime they were in these drills. When I arrived at the school, I was given a copy of the concussion checklist by the school nurse and went straight from there to the ER. When we arrived at the ER, my student was even more disoriented and had to be assisted inside the building. His eyes were not tracking, and he struggled to know the date. He had to undergo a CT scan and was recommended by Mason General staff to follow up with an MRI. The next day, I had to contact the school to request a copy of the incident report. The information provided on the report was vague and limited. It read something like, student bumped head with another student. The coach's notes on the form claimed that they did not know my student was injured. My child struggled for days with headaches and feeling disoriented. He came home from school to nap daily, and he made the comment, if student X had not been injured as bad as he was, these drills would have continued and more people would have been hurt. This was a blatant disregard of safety for our students, and I'm appalled at the behavior of the faculty who conducted these drills, as our students are taught to respect these individuals and trust them to have their best interests at heart. Many students indicated that they felt like they could not refuse to do the drills because they would be punished during the next year's season. My student does not feel safe to continue in the sport he enjoys due to the lost trust and men that are meant to act as responsible mentors for our youth in this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew Wilford.
Good evening, Board. Andrew Wilford, 509 Grant Avenue here in Shelton. I looked through the packet last night and I wanted to express my support for changing the language for the community comment section. I know other people have spoken out against it in the past, the change that occurred at the beginning of the school year, and I was one who also did not agree with the language change. I think it'd be more simple just to go back to the language that we had, but the proposal seems adequate to me. What I don't see in the proposal, though, is anything addressing the front page that's stapled here now. This also popped up at the same time. It mimics the same language that we find in the agenda pamphlet. Something else on here that I think needs pointed out that seems really out of place is the first bullet point that states that the chair will interrupt you when you're making a comment if it's libelous or slanderous under a legal standard. Now, that's quite the duty for the chair to hold. Last I knew, he wasn't a lawyer or a judge or a law professor or anything like that, so that seems a little bit heady for him to take on. Another thing I wanted to bring up just briefly, I just learned about this today. There was an overdose at the junior high yesterday, and thankfully the child was saved. She was, what I'm told, she was smoking marijuana that was laced with fentanyl. And I work with a guy who, he volunteers with the homeless community, and he has for many, many, many years. And I talked with him about this today, and he says this is something that they're seeing in the homeless community right now in Shelton as well. This is not an isolated incident. There are people in our community intentionally lacing marijuana with fentanyl with disregard for human life. So as teachers, students, parents, we gotta let our kids know that what is seemingly a safe drug, because now it's legal in the state of Washington, this is not safe. Children will die. Homeless people are dying from this. We gotta let them know, we gotta warn them. Thanks.
Thank you. Marilyn Aaron.
Hello, my name is Marilyn Aaron. All my information's on file. I'm going to veer off from my speech for a second to touch on what Andrew just spoke about, because I had no idea that that happened yesterday. So I'm going to revisit the fact of the Narcan in the schools and the training for staff. Last time I talked to Ivy, she had said that there were some staff that were trained, but not everyone. So I'd like to revisit that and hope that you guys take note of importance of all the staff being trained on how to use Narcan, and that they know where it's at so they can get to it at any given moment, because it's literally, you know, seconds can save a life. Matt, I know you of all people up here know that. Okay, so my speech. We all understand the power of a good coach. They inspire, motivate, and push our children to achieve their best. But sometimes misplaced loyalty can cloud our judgment. This incident that happened on January 31st forces us to confront a harsh reality. Loyalty to a coach doesn't absolve them of responsibility, especially when student safety is blatantly disregarded. Some in our community might defend the coach, clinging to the belief that he would never intentionally put our children at risk. They may believe he's a dedicated leader who cares deeply about his players. However, good intentions don't erase the consequences of reckless actions. The unauthorized practice, the lack of safety equipment, and the resulting injuries are undeniable facts. Perhaps this unwavering loyalty stems from past successes or a strong emotional connection with the coach. But let's not confuse passion for the game with the reckless endangerment of our children. A coach's responsibility extends far beyond wins and losses. It's about fostering a healthy environment, prioritizing safety, and creating a space where students can develop not just as athletes, but as well-rounded individuals. This incident is a wake-up call. Let's move beyond blind loyalty and focus on the well-being of our children. We need a coach who understands that true leadership involves prioritizing safety, not shortcuts. It's time to hold those responsible accountable and ensure such reckless endangerment never happens again. Our children deserve better than coaches who gamble with their health in the name of a win. Thank you.
Thank you. Carrie Bell.
Hi, my name is Carrie Bell. I live at 6261 East McReevy in Shelton. My first thing I want to talk about is the play field that we have here at Mountain View Elementary School, and the lack of play field that we actually have here. We do have a small jungle gym and swings and a little bit of that, but the grass area out there definitely needs some work to be done. We've talked to the facilities director recently, He's been quoted somewhere around $1 million to get that up to snuff for the kids to even play on and enjoy. And we all know how, especially at the elementary school age, that kids need outdoor activity and play, which helps them, get their jitters out for the day so they can be able to learn. So we'd just like to bring it to the board's attention and see if we can work on getting something done to get that work done out there. I'm a member of the Mountain View Elementary PTSO, and we're willing to help and put something in play. We don't know what that means as of right now. So far, we've talked to the principal and again, the facilities director, Robert, and we're working on doing something, just a walking path and a small thing out there that's not going to take a lot of money and or city planning and stuff like that, but I'd like to bring it to the board's attention that we would like to push something forward to get that done. They said when the building was built that we didn't have it in the funds to make that happen, and at the time it would have cost about $400,000, and now it's up to about $1 million, which again, I feel that's a little excessive, and I don't know if there's a way that the board and the school district and stuff can, figure something out that we can help push that forward. And then, second all, I just want to express my support for Coach Smith and Coach Conklin and the stuff that they have done in the community and the football program, and especially Coach Smith with the work that he's done with the K-8 athletic program. He's been working really hard with that and getting athletics involved in the school district for the younger kids. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Aaron Leff.
My name's Aaron Leth. I live at 181 East Balmoral Way. I apologize for not being here. The last board meeting I had a basketball game. I'm the father of Jackson and Hunter Leth, both of whom are 3 sport athletes at SHS. I've been an educator and a coach in Shelton for the past 21 years. The incident on January 31st that ended in 5 SHS athletes being sent to Mason General could have been and should have been prevented. The lack of safety for the athletes in class that morning was nothing less than negligent. My son Jackson suffered season-ending concussion, which also caused him to miss this year's baseball season. Head coach notified me that Jack was a little dingy from his hit to his head. I spoke with my son 2 minutes later, and he was not able to put a sentence together and finally mumbled, "It was the worst one yet," indicating his 4th concussion that he has received. 2 in the last 3 months, 1 during football season. I instructed Jackson to stay with his coaches until I arrived. It wasn't until I got to school that I found out he was left unattended on the locker room floor for 15 plus minutes before his basketball coach found him. The number 1 priority of any school district should be to keep students safe when they are at school. The blatant disregard for safety on January 31st was displayed in the running of an out-of-season tackling drill without gear and the disgusting display of disrespect towards players who were hurt. Coaches were yelling to get off the mat so they could get more reps, all while laughing at students who were hurt. When Jackson was first smashed the back of his head and then went head-to-head with another player, he was, by definition, knocked out, unaware of what was happening, unable to speak, unable to see. Coaches then picked him up, put him in a corner, then continued with the drill until class ended. Board members and Superintendent Jesse, I would like to know if all of your coaches and volunteers for sports are trained in concussion protocol. I know the answer, it's yes, because there's a WIA rule in which I know you would not break. On how to detect, the protocol on how to detect and what procedures to take in case of a presumed concussion. I can tell you, Mr. Jesse and board, one of the most important rules is don't leave students unattended for any reason. I know that there are people in our community on this board, on SHS football staff that are led or leading people to believe this is not a big deal. Even worse, these individuals are accusing these students of being weak or not cut out to play football. I have a statement from the Shelton School District website. Shelton Strategic Plan number 4, safe and welcoming. We will create a safe, supportive environment for all stakeholders. So I asked the board and Mr. Jesse, Are we more concerned about keeping good old boy football coaches or for the safety of our students? Because if it is keeping coaches, I suggest you change your motto to Welcome to Shelton School District, home of hypocrisy.
Thank you. Janine McLaughlin.
My name is Janine McLaughlin, and I live on 4350 East Agate Road. I stand before you tonight as a concerned member of the community. I consider the Leth family as my own family. When I heard from them what happened to their son Jackson on January 31st during his first period PE class, my heart was broken. Listening to my friends explain how their son was injured and left alone on the floor of the locker room, I cried. As a parent, watching your kids be injured or sick is one of the most helpless feelings, as I know that you can relate to. I can imagine that you've all had sleepless nights while your child has fought a fever. I can imagine that you have all experienced the gut-wrenching pain of watching your child writhe in pain from a broken bone. Maybe you've even witnessed your child with a head injury. Being a parent can be such a scary thing. Our children are parts of our own heart that walk outside of our bodies, and we cannot keep them safe or protect them every moment of every day. When we release our children to the care of others, we live in the assumption that those others will do what is necessary to keep them safe to the best of their abilities, don't we? We live in the assumption that if, God forbid, our child is hurt while we are not around, those others will do anything in their power to assist the situation. What happened at Shelton High School on January 31st has to be one of the most atrocious things I've ever heard of happening at Shelton High School between staff and students. Well, minus that one incident recently with the school counselor, but I digress. I respectfully ask you to put the student or the safety of students at the forefront of all that you do. I respectfully ask that you do not allow the staff and volunteers who were involved in this incident to work with children in our school district ever again. These adults made very poor choices that led to the harm of multiple students during school hours. This isn't a popularity contest. This isn't about the football program. This is about the safety of our students, our children, period. Students were not kept safe on January 31st in that wrestling room. This isn't a situation where adults involved can say, oops, my bad, or oops, I didn't know. I praise my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, that those kids weren't hurt worse. I thank God that Jackson Leth is still in my life. I hope you do what is right in this situation. Not what your lawyers tell you, not what your peers tell you, not what you tell yourselves to help you sleep at night. You know what is right. If you do not do what is right, then once again, you have failed these students and our community. The shame is yours to carry.
Thank you. Desiree Lepp.
Hi, I'm Desiree Leth, 181 East Balmoral Way, Shelton, Washington. I was hoping I wouldn't have to do this again. It's been a few weeks since I've been here, and we still don't really have any idea what's going on. And I wasn't going to come tonight, except for that I did see some pretty nasty posts on Facebook last night that were shared by some coaches about how our kids are cattle and they're just being trained to be tough. So I just kind of wanted to touch on that. And I can't imagine standing up and defending the coaches that harmed 5 children in less than an hour. I honestly don't understand it. So what happened on January 31st should have never happened, but it did, and kids were hurt as a result, and that is all that matters. Just to refresh the community's memory, this took place in a first period PE class. I keep hearing it's football, it's football. It wasn't football. It's a first period PE class. There are kids in that class, the counselor told me, you can't have a class of just football players. So there could be kids in there that are not football players. So that's where I keep hearing that, it's football. It wasn't, it was a PE class. Sorry, I'm really frustrated that this is still happening. So this took place in a first period PE class. The teacher was out for the day and had told the students that they would be maxing on cleans while he was out. The head coach and quarterback coach came into the class that morning and decided to take things into their own hands. They chose to run a tackling drill, not a mat drill, that resulted in numerous injuries. We have heard claims that this was an accident. One injury would have been an accident. These grown men that shouldn't have even been in the class, they didn't sign in, I do have that confirmed from the district, to be in that class. Sorry. Watched as our kids slammed their heads against walls, throwing them off to the side so that they continue running the drills. Then, when they were done, they left. There are not two sides to this story. The coaches broke several rules that day, caused numerous injuries, and then left, acting as if what they did was normal. It was not normal. Sorry, I can't even talk straight. I'm so sick about this. I grew up in a football family. I get the football mentality. But the days of the good old boys getting to do whatever they want without consequence are done. It's 2024. I'm a teacher. We can't do that in school. We can't teach like we did in 1985 either. So, I am here to stand up for the safety of the children in our community, my children as well as the future children that will come through this program. I am confident that the school district is going to do what's right and get rid of all of the coaches that have been involved in this situation, including those that have been working to cover up the truth. Thank you.
Thank you. Angela Wiley.
My name is Angela Wiley, 191 East Davis Road. I'm here today not to voice my opinion towards you specifically, but I do want to say my son is part of the SHS football program. Many of these students I look at as being my son's brothers. I've seen these kids grow up in the community. I've been part of the community in many different aspects. I've been a mandated reporter for at least 15 years in this community. As a mandated reporter, as a caregiver, as somebody that is responsible for other people's children in this community, I just really hope you're listening to your community. There are things happening, there are things going on that absolutely should not go on. I instill in my son every day to be the best he can be. I instill in my son to do the right thing. I want my son to be a great man in this community. I want him to do great things as he grows up in his life. To have someone as a role model that can put so many kids' safety at risk, that's not something I want my son to grow up with. That's not what I want my son to see. I just hope you are listening to your community. I hope you are seeing what is going on, and I hope you guys all make the right decision. Like I said, this is my family. I've been here for 20 plus years in this community alone. And I don't ever want to see something like this happen again to these boys. They do not deserve it. They deserve more. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dean Jewett.
Dean Jewett, lifelong Mason County community member.
Can you state your address, please?
No.
Can you be seated?
No. I live in Shelton. That's my address. I'm homeless. Are you gonna discriminate against me?
Nope. No, if you're homeless, that's fine.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Do I get my minutes back or my seconds?
Yeah.
It's hard to believe the stuff that we're hearing. I say that to myself, and then I say, well, I'm appalled. I can't believe it. And then I remember the school district that I'm talking about and the majority of the school board that I'm looking at. And I also see the nonverbal communication between two males on the left-hand side of my vision. It's appalling. I'm going to go off of what Andrew had talked about with your statements. You try to put some scare tactics into people so that they can't say what they want to say. You know what that does to me? That's a challenge, and I'll accept that challenge every day, and it will not dissuade me or critique me in what I want to say. You want to bring a lawsuit? Bring it on. The last thing I'm going to say, you can't leave those who created the problem in charge of the solution. So go home and look in the mirror. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody on one? Okay. Can you make that happen? If you're online, you're on mute.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. This is Bob Rogers, 229 West Wyandotte in Shelton, currently in terrible range camping. You're on mute. I just want to ask the board to consider your item 703, as stated earlier. You had a change of language, and several months ago on the public comment, and as received tonight, public comment is critical for the board to hear what your community and your parents are saying, and hopefully act on that. I encourage you to pull the top sheet. There's no reason for that, and go with the recommended language in 703, and encourage your community for comment.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Hi, I'm having a really tough time understanding you.
Okay. Sorry about that. I will send the board written comments.
Okay.
It ain't better now?
It's a little better now.
Okay, I'll just make it short and sweet. I encourage you to adjust the language in the public comments, as other speakers have said tonight. As you see tonight, the power of public comment, and for the board to listen and act is critical. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Last time we could hear on the recording much better than we could hear in person here.
Okay, we move on to item number 5, reports and recognition. 5.01 will be the report from the student school board representatives. And tonight, it looks like it's just you, Abigail.
Dance team took first and third place at districts and is going to state later this month on the 22nd for both their pom and military routines. Our DECA club had 2 students qualify for nationals. They'll be attending this on the 26th of April in California. SHS just completed all of their WIDA testing. Bite a Reality just took place for our seniors. We hosted a drill meet recently for our NJROTC program, where in a portion of the award ceremony honored our service members along with the fallen soldier table and a reading of the final inspection. Upward Bound had a special presentation to students interested. Third trimester starts this Thursday. Finals week is currently taking place at the high school. Spring sports games started last week and will continue on to the rest of the year. FCCLA had 2 students compete in the sub-districts this year, one of which placed first in both employment skills and public speaking. FCCLA had 22 students competing in the employment skills category and 7 battling it out to advance in districts. A few students from Miss Jonah's class took a trip to the Life Proof Boats facility in Bremerton recently. This was an amazing opportunity for those students to learn how boats are made from start to finish. And the 2024 Mason County Forest Festival Royalty Court was chosen, and 5 of our students have made it on the court.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions? Okay. And 5.02, the budget status report for December 23 through February of 24 with Ms. Trugstead.
Good evening, President Welander, Shelton Board of Directors. In your board packet, you have December 2023, January 2024, and February 2024 budget status reports. General fund ended February with $382,908. I will let you know that it'll probably stay level for March, and then you'll start seeing it go up, and then you'll have a little decline. But 22% of our state funding comes in July and August. So that's where you'll see us hit our target. And we have done projections and we're on track. So Capital Projects Fund, February ended with $65,043. Debt Service Fund is starting to climb because we will be paying our bond payment the end of May. So tax collection will be coming in there to make that bond payment. February ended with $1,214,598. Associated Student Body stays pretty steady throughout the year. February ended with $504,923, and that's for all our secondary schools. And then Transportation Vehicle Fund is at $306,604. And then, of course, our scholarship funds, the Drake Scholarship, Mike Johnson, and Bolt Memorial ended at $247,352. Are there any questions?
The only one that I saw was on the transportation budget, just kind of knowing what that's for, is it took that $13,000 dip and then came back up. Did we buy a van or something?
No, actually what happened, we found where a payment had been made in the prior year out of general fund, and it should have been charged to transportation vehicle fund. So we made that correction. We wrote a check back to general fund, and it was about $13,000.
Okay. Thank you.
It was correction.
Any other questions? Super. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Item 6, the consent agenda. Has everybody looked at the consent agenda?
I motion to approve the consent agenda. Do I need to go item by item? Okay.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor of approving the consent agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 7, the discussion and action items. 7.01 is the proposed revised policy 3520, student fees and charges with Brenda Trogstad. This will be the second reading.
Good evening. In front of you, you have a slight revision in the procedure. We did find a sentence in there that no longer applies. Coming off of COVID, our students are no longer charged for their breakfast or lunch. So we wanted to remove the sentence that talks about if they haven't paid for 5 meals, that no longer applies to Shelton School District at all. And we don't envision it coming back in the near future that they'll be paying because they are expanding it to more districts at this time. So I know you only approved the policy, but I wanted you to see that correction in the procedure. So does anyone have any questions after the first reading last week on the policy?
I don't have any questions. Okay, it's recommended for approval. Do we have a motion?
I motion to approve the proposed revised policy number 3520, student fees, fines, and charges.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So we have a policy. And then really quickly on the procedure, I did get that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then 7.02, the proposed reading of policy 3515, the student incentives, and this is also a second reading.
So in the district, we do like to give our students incentives when they do good things. I think Superintendent Jesse mentioned he attended at OMS that a student was receiving a reward for reading. So we have put into place, per the state auditor, a policy that they recommended, and I would request that it has approval tonight if you don't have any further questions.
Go ahead if there's any questions. We would take a motion then.
I motion to approve the proposed new policy number 3515, student incentives.
And a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and the ayes have it.
Thank you.
Okay, 7.03, the provised revision of the wording in the community comment section on the board meeting's agenda. Everybody got this in their handouts. Was there any questions about that?
Yes, a parent brought up, a community member brought up the idea of revising the front page that goes with the agenda. Could we consider that too? So it also meets up with our community comment?
Yes.
Could we consider that before we adopt it?
We can, sure. Not necessarily needed, we can change that. But on the bullet point, the libelous or slander under a legal standard, while yes, it's correct, I'm not an attorney, probably wouldn't do this. That is part of our policy, and that's under the Open Public Meetings Act. So I actually looked that up.
Okay.
But otherwise, do we have a motion for approving our? Yeah, back to the,
Okay,
well, it's not
so-
back to the original language, it's the,
Changed at any time.
Okay. Yes, this is the cover sheet. Okay, so going just on the language that we received to change the policy, yes, I understand. That would be acceptable to me.
okay.
I motion to approve the proposed revision to the wording of the community comments section on the board meeting agenda.
Got a second?
I second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And 7.04, Resolution 2401. This is the, basically the re-signing of the Shelton School Board Guiding Principles. We did this a couple of years ago. It's the same language. I don't think there was any changes that we came up with in that work group, and we just never got around to putting it on the agenda to have it signed. So if everybody's okay with that.
I'd like to make a comment that I think the guiding principles are very sound and reasonable, and it's a good thing for our board to have.
Thank you. We have a motion?
So I'll make a motion to pass Resolution 2401, Shelton School Board Guiding Principles.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And 7.05, the proposed surplus of 2 small buses. Brenda Trogstead.
I would like to request approval to surplus 2 small buses that we originally gave to the Family Resource Center. Ricardo Del Bosque came with this wonderful plan that he would go around the community and deliver meals and help the community members. They have been sitting since we came back from COVID. They no longer run, and the repairs are cost prohibitive. So I would request you surplus them, and then per the law, I will offer them out to other ESD school districts, and then we will go out to bid if nobody would like them. So.
Thank you. And again, these were the buses that we were delivering meals and stuff on during COVID?
Yes.
Okay, super.
Yes.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to?
I move that we approve the surplus of the 2 proposed small buses.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 8, board member comments, and we'll start at the end with Director Cronquist.
I would like to thank everybody in the community for coming and speaking to us It means a lot. It takes a lot to speak up, so thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to start with legislation, which there was lots of education-related legislation passed, both chambers, including increases to the prototypical school standard model, increasing the special education funding, and supplemental allocations for pupil transportation are three that I noted. They're on the governor's desk for signing. I'd also like to thank Mountain View Elementary School for hosting us to the reading event. I got to go and read to a second grade and a kindergarten class this year, and it was a lot of fun. And I don't know how kindergarten teachers do what they do, because I walked in and they were all working on the number 6 at their seats, and then I showed up and chaos it just was everywhere. But it was a lot of fun, and I really appreciate that. It was nice to sit with the little kids and just kind of feel all their energy and excitement around reading. I'd also like to thank the community for coming out, supporting each other, and your emails and reaching out to us. We really appreciate everything that you're sending, and I shouldn't speak for all of us. I do read all of those, and I appreciate the information you share. Thank you.
Director Knudsen.
Again, thank you for the community comments. It's nice to have feedback from our community. I've heard a lot of concerns from parents and teachers about behavior in our district, and having a conversation this week with Superintendent Jesse, I just am very pleased to know that there is a plan in work behind the scene of some training and protocol for what to do when behavior problems come up and how we can better support our students and their needs. So it wasn't mentioned at the meeting today, but I'd just like to say that it's a big concern in our community, and I would like to thank the superintendent for preparing something to move us forward with behavior issues and emotional counseling. That's it.
Okay. Director Davison.
All right. I also want to thank everybody who comes to the meeting and stands up and gives public comment, or just comes to the meeting to also get information. And also thank you to those who do send in emails. I read all of those as well, and I do try to get back at least to let people know that I have received them and read it. It's very important to hear from our community, and just I appreciate everybody who does reach out. Abigail, thank you for your report. You had so many different things written down, and I actually had gone through, and I've been picking up on a number of those too, because I know Becky and I had a brief conversation about just all the positive things that are happening in schools, and not everybody sees or hears those. A lot of them are posted on social media, and if you're not on social media, you don't ever see them. So thank you for announcing a lot of those at our school board meeting. It's really appreciated. I think we have a lot of students doing some really amazing things. You mentioned a number of those, whether it's DECA Club, having somebody go to it. The dance drill team is going on to state. We've got all of the spring sports that are starting up, and hopefully we will have spring weather to go with that here pretty soon. There were a number of individual students that were highlighted too. One for their volunteer work that they do at Mason Clinic, for being bilingual and welcoming people within the clinic. I think those things are things to be celebrated. We had another student who was written up in the South Sound Business Journal for they go to Shelton High School, but they're also part of New Market and their small business that has to do with baking. And it was just it's really neat to see our students celebrated like that. Also great for our NJROTC, who's had a number of competitions and done well. I wanted to say congratulations to them. There was another student who was also celebrated she's a third-year automotive student who's actually won a trip to Boston to represent Washington State and Shelton High School. Our Special Olympics Club got a silver medal for their basketball competition in Wenatchee. These are just you can pick these things up anywhere, and it's students from all over the place. One of our previous student representatives, Richard Beckman, I think you mentioned this, he and another student qualified for nationals for DECA. And I also just want to thank the community partnerships that we have. You mentioned one of those with the lifeboats, and whether it's the forestry industry, Mason Health, or these field trips to go see the life-proof boats in Bremerton, we have a lot of community partnerships that offer a lot of things for our students, and I'm really thankful for all of those. And then lastly, just good job to all of the students and the teachers for finishing the second trimester.
I don't have much to add to that. One thing on the robotics, it's cool that the whole team got a blue ribbon. I do know that they've had some individual national champions and high awards in the past. One of those actually went on as a supervisor at the Naval Shipyard. It is get your applications into college and scholarship season, so make sure you're doing that if you're a senior out there. The Mountain View Field, yeah, I know. I've still got scars from when it was just dirt and rocks. So with that, I don't think we have much else. We do have an executive session that we will be back at, and we've got to sign papers. We can sign papers after the executive session? Yeah, so we're going to take off for an executive session for a personnel matter. We'll be back at 7:05. So, okay, we're back from executive session. No action was taken. I would at this time entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
At 7:07.